So today I'm going to show you guys some cool glitches, or not really glitches, but features based on the way the mechanics work in Oblivion, the Elder Scrolls 4. Basically, there is the athletic stat and your speed stat and acrobatics, and they can all be affected by, buffs from naturally leveling, maybe enchanted armor, potions, most significantly spells and enchantments. And in the realm of abject glitching, you can duplicate enchanted rings that fortify something like your athletics or your speed, and make it so that when you duplicate these rings and then you wear one and you drop another, I'd have to do an explanation of this or a tutorial, but it'll allow you to permanently have an enchantment attached to you, bypassing the natural limit for how much stacking of a given statistic you can have. So you can overcome the limits in that sense by glitching of having to have maybe like sigil stone enchanted armor to maximize your magicka or your speed or something like that, and just reach a really high level of speed or magicka. And I'm going to tell you why I think magicka is more practical. For speed or athletics, if you use this glitch and you raise them to like 1000, now your character basically permanently has that statistic unless you use the console to remove it on PC. So you might want to be careful, because you might not want to run around permanently and have to like sneak, and then you're like 50 feet further just by flicking the controller. But even with the vicissitude of having really fast speed and being uncontrollable, having lag, having the game have to load areas chunk by chunk, it can be fun and cool, strategically beneficial to have really fast speed. If you've ever played this game, you know that you can just run back with like light armor, no armor, decent speed, and pelt arrows at enemies, even on the hardest difficulty, repeatedly, no matter what level. If you have enough arrows, dupes, or bot, they'll just die because they can't get you. You can do this in the Imperial City and anywhere you need to fight enemies, like a dungeon. If you have space to run, there's hope. And the arrows might be a better option than magic, because magic takes time to charge up, time you might not have. You might need potions for that instead to restore it. But in this case, we're not necessarily doing speed and acrobatics, jumping, all that, for any like tactical reasons, good though they may be. Just more like a proof of concept that you can use the glitch, and you can do some interesting things with a glitch when you have really high, unnaturally high base speed or athletics that you can get, rather than what you can get legitimately. And as opposed to even having acrobatics, there are some ways you can really break the engine's calculation of your position and your speed to do some incredible things vertically. Now, there are things you might have noticed playing the game, like if you run into stairs and you jump at the right angle, basically you get launched up in the air a little bit normally. Now, if you have, say, 2800 speed and athletics, and you do that with a hill, it might have that same kind of appropriation of your speed and your movement, and it might launch you a little bit higher. I'm talking kind of around the realm of Sovngarde and Aetherius. You're like Lorcan, you're breaking the lunar currency, and you're just like, even though the universe is infinite in this game spatially, you're just going to Aetherius. So you can do that. The other thing you can do is not use a glitch. Like, if you're using the glitch, you can raise your magicka and your willpower either directly magicka or intelligence, so that you can cast spells that cost so much magicka, but you have enough magicka and the regen rate to effortlessly cast like 20 of those spells in succession to boost your athletics and your speed by 100. But otherwise, you can have pretty high running, even so, without using skooma or potions. If you take 9 sigil stone pieces of buffed magicka armor, and then you make certain spells that take advantage a little bit of like the spell stacking mechanic, not spell stacking, but spell chaining, and you make different iterations of the same spell to maximize the amount of fortifying of speed you can do in a single turn with legitimate magicka. It's just a manipulation of the way the game works, but it's not really a glitch. And on my most recent character, who is Sheogorath, he's like blue and everything, I will demonstrate that. With a glitched character that can achieve unnatural magicka and intelligence and willpower, you can do stuff also like fortifying speed on another enemy or, NPC or character. You can do this to your horse and have them or ride the horse and jump over hills. I would caution that oftentimes this is going to end up just killing your horse, so you can have a heal other spell where you heal your horse for like 120 seconds constantly to make up for the fall damage they're accumulating. An aforementioned glitch is spell chaining, and essentially what you're doing is temporarily fortifying your magicka and your intelligence, and then you're draining it a little bit with a little bit of a longer effect, so that when the fortify wears off, it'll drain your magicka to a negative value, and you're only supposed to have 0 magicka at minimum. So the engine somehow calculates it so that it's like you barely used any magicka at all. Now, you can use this, like I said, to improve your speed of your character, or you can use it to make effective magicka spells that have their own kind of like Newtonian motion, where they just, if you keep casting them, you'll keep being able to cast them. If you stop for a little bit, then you'll have a chunk of your magicka already taken away. It's like running a marathon and having the energy to keep going with adrenaline, but then if you stop, your muscles get weak from lactic acid. So yeah, it's the same kind of idea that if you keep using spell chaining, you can attack really quickly and you can do a lot of damage. That's well and good, but there's an even better way of guaranteeing a kill on any given enemy. That way is spell stacking, and spell stacking is essentially where you have one spell you created and you hotkey it, say, to the left button on your directional, or if you're on PC, you hotkey it to some button to equip it effortlessly, and then you have another one on your right. And what each of these does is give you weakness to magicka and perhaps weakness to fire 100% for some period of time. And by alternating them as different spells, they reduplicate or they magnify the effects of the previous spell, whereas normally casting the same spell wouldn't work to increase your potential for stacking damage. But you're basically adding like a multiplier upon a multiplier to the potential magicka damage an enemy can be attacked with by weakening them further and further, such that you could probably get 1,000 damage or 10,000 damage. And depending on how long you make the spells and your magicka supply, you can keep doing this until you have like 1,000,000 damage. So it depends on whether you consider it a glitch or a legitimate gameplay mechanic. You have limits based on your magicka, which depends on your character's race, your enchanted items, and all that. But you can also use glitches to make this mechanic further amplified. You see at the end that I cast a spell, and the Dark Elf thief just like dies instantaneously. So in the course of the video, you see spell chaining and spell stacking, and the ways that I use permanently fortified glitched statistics like intelligence to give me temporary access to very high athletics, like 1,000, very high speed, more like 2,800 for both of those because of the number of spells I use. And on another character, I use a permanently buffed athletic stat to never have to worry about even casting spells. But what are some other glitches you can do? Well, I've never done it, but there is one where you can get a bandit to pick up the Skull of Corruption and strike you with it and duplicate your character. Then you can kill the bandit and leave the Skull of Corruption in, say, the cave where you found them. And apparently you can use command humanoid at the maximum level to get a clone of yourself to follow you around. And it's pretty cool because if you kill that clone, you get banned from every single guild you're a part of. It's like having your own character as an NPC. There's also a glitch where you can use a Skull of Corruption on somebody, then kill them and save right when you kill their clone. Not kill them, but kill their clone. And then reload the save and quickly press X while it's loading to grab their inventory of the clone. You can get normally unobtainable items like an extra copy of the Necromancer's Amulet and the Emperor's Robes if you use it on the Emperor. But for that, you need to either have the Staff of Worms from the Mages Guild questline or Risen Flesh, which is a greater power from Shivering Isles. Finally, there was a glitch in the unpatched version of Oblivion before the Shivering Isles update, where paintbrushes used to be static, so you could put them in the air and they'd stay there, and you could make staircases with it. The game does have some idiosyncratic glitches. I think some of them might happen to certain people, but not others. In one of my characters, I have a guy named Brelin from the Knights of the Nine DLC that for some reason follows me around all the time and never became a knight. He just wears like robes and constantly like follows me, or cloth really, and protects me. But also if you steal, he'll rat you out to the police and everything, or the guards. So it's funny because he'll follow you everywhere, and if you stood on these paintbrushes, he would try to like run into your position, and eventually it would just teleport him up there. So when he keeps following you and he gets up there, you can knock him off and he'll go unconscious. Now, if you can find other quest people that'll follow you, like Martin and Joffrey, you could take them to Die Rock and kind of have fun with like knocking them off, and then they go unconscious. If you want to see more videos on Oblivion, the Elder Scrolls lore, and gameplay, please subscribe. Have a good day.